Hi, my name is Kristin and this is Kristin Kraves Books. I am here with my monthly most anticipated releases and we're already in April. Springtime is here. It snowed quite a bit here yesterday, so I'm not feeling the spring vibes, but I'm so ready for the spring releases. There are a ton of good ones in April, so let's get into it, starting with April 5th. Again, a Kaikeyi mezi. I talk about a Kaikeyi mezi constantly because I'm always in awe of them, their range, what they do. So they actually have their debut poetry collection coming out April 5th, and it is called Content Warning Everything. And I'm not a huge poetry reader. There are a few poetry collections I've read and loved, but I'm very picky about it and it's just not my thing. But if anybody can make me really fall in love with poetry, it is a Kaikeyi mezi. And I actually want to read you, it's a quick synopsis. It's just so beautiful, even the synopsis alone. So I am so excited to get this. And it says, crafted of both divine and earthly materials, these poems travel from home to homesickness, tracing desire to surrender and abuse to survival, while mapping out a chosen family that includes the Son of God, Mary Auntie, and Magdalene with the chestnut eyes. So that just sounds like it's going to be really beautiful. As I said, I just love a Kaikeyi mezi, so I have high hopes for their poetry collection. I just know I'm going to fall in love with it. Next is actually a nonfiction book that I'm really excited about, and it's by Susan Cain, who wrote Quiet, which is a book for introverts. And actually it was kind of life-changing, that book, for me as an introvert, so I highly recommend that one. But her new book is called Bittersweet, and the tagline is How Sorrow and Longing Make Us Whole. And I think that in this she really touches on toxic positivity and how telling people that they have to be positive all the time can be really hurtful towards them, and how grief and suffering makes us who we are. And there's a lot of research in this, and I've seen some early reviews for it. I'll definitely listen to this one on audio. I really trust Susan Cain, and I think that's an important topic right now. So really looking forward to that. Next is Memphis by Tara M. Stringfellow, and this is a multi-generational family saga, and I read Pachinko this month. Absolutely fell in love with it. Reminded me why I love stories like that, so I'm really excited about Memphis. And it takes place over the course of 70 years, and we're following different generations of Black women. And actually I think it's based on the author's own family history, so I think that's going to be really, really beautiful and powerful and personal. And from what I've heard about it, the main character, Joan, is actually an artist, which I will link to a video I just did about how much I love books with people who are creative or artists, and so this is high on my list. And it says, a spellbinding debut, I always love a good debut, tracing 3 generations of Southern Black family and one daughter's discovery that she has the power to change her family legacy. So that's going to be fantastic. I wouldn't be surprised if that is a book of the month pick, actually. Then we have a sequel that I'm really looking forward to. This is Sense and Second Degree Murder by Tirzah Price. I loved the first one. It was Pride and Premeditation. That was a Pride and Prejudice retelling. This one is a Sense and Sensibility retelling. I just thought the first one was really fun, and I hope this one is the same way. It'll be interesting because I've only read Sense and Sensibility once, and I've only seen the movie like a couple times, so I'm not as familiar with the original material as I am with Pride and Prejudice. You know that's my favorite story of all time. I just love everything about Pride and Prejudice. So it'll be interesting to see what I think of this retelling. I don't think I've ever read a Sense and Sensibility retelling, so that'll be fun. These are murder mysteries, so with the characters from the original story, but with a twist. So I'm looking forward to this. Next is Reputation by Lex Crosher, which I actually read in December. I was sent an ALC of it from NetGalley, and I had a lot of fun with this. It is, if Mean Girls meets Bridgerton, it really has that vibe. But I do think that this is one I would recommend on audio. If I had read this one physically, I don't think I would have had as much fun with it. I really liked the narrator. They captured that cattiness of this story. So it's really about just these group of girls in this Regency era, starting drama, lots of gossip. It's a good time. It's fun. I think with Bridgerton coming out, I think it will be out by the time that I post this video, so the second season releases soon for me, that it's the perfect time to read a book like Reputation. It's just a good time. Again, this one will be no surprise because I love a good foodie romance. I have a video all about that as well. And this is Love from Scratch by Caitlin Hill. This is actually, I think this is YA. And it is following, it's hate to love romance and a foodie romance, all my favorite tropes. And it's following these 2 characters who have internships at a cooking channel. So that is different because I read a lot of these foodie romances and they are following contestants on a cooking competition show. but these are following interns who work for the cooking channel, and I think what happens is that they end up having a viral video of them, and the channel kind of wants to use that right off the back of that viral video, and these two kind of have fake dating or hate to love. Something happens there, and I think we're gonna get a lot of food descriptions. I absolutely adore this cover. It's so much fun. This is right in my wheelhouse. Then we have another romance. It is spring, summer's coming. I love the good romance, and this is The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. And I know that Mia Sosa's first book had some mixed reviews, but I've seen a lot more people who have loved it. And then what is that one called? The Worst Best Man. So I do want to read that first, because I think these are companion novels. And I love that Mia Sosa is doing this kind of series where they're all based on weddings. I think that's a good time. So all I know is that we're following a main character who becomes like an assistant wedding planner, and she overhears something before the wedding's supposed to happen, and she kind of gets involved because she doesn't think the groom should marry the bride, and then she ends up fake dating the groom because she feels guilty for her involvement in the wedding being canceled, and obviously they fall in love. That could be fun. And then it's probably gonna want to make me read The Wedding Planner with J-Lo. Love that movie. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that movie. Next up is Hotel Magnifique by Emily J. Taylor, and of course this is giving me Caraval vibes, Night Circus vibes, which I didn't love the Night Circus, but I have high hopes for this one. I love the setting. It is actually following like a magical hotel, which is fun. And I think that every day at midnight, this hotel moves locations. So we're following a young girl who wants to visit this hotel. And while her and her sister cannot afford to attend this event, they actually become hired staff at this hotel, and then a bunch of shenanigans happen. And you know, with any of these stories, there's obviously something dark and sinister happening underneath, and this is getting a lot of buzz already. Great cover. I could really go for something whimsical. Then this next one is really interesting, and I would get my hands on it now. I've pre-ordered my copy already, and this is Nightingale, and this is a romance anthology that a bunch of popular romance authors have come together and contributed short stories for, and all of the royalties will go to helping the Ukraine. And I think this only comes in ebook. I pre-ordered my ebook already, and I know that this is a limited time thing, so I will leave all the information for that down below. But there's so many authors you might recognize in here. I know Anna Huang's in here, Helena Hunting, Katie Roberts, so a ton of romance authors. A lot of them are new to me, so it'll be fun for me to go through this anthology and find new romance authors that I might fall in love with. So this is great. I will leave all that information down below. Next we actually have a book written in verse, which I haven't read one of those in a long time, and I do really love them, and I bet you this will be fantastic on audio. And this is Nothing Burns Bright as You by Ashley Woodfolk, who I read one of her books and I actually absolutely loved. I have another on my TBR. I really like Ashley Woodfolk. So this is her first book written in verse, and as I said, I'm gonna listen to the audiobook, but I want to read you the synopsis because it's short and I just think it's great. So it says, 2 girls, one wild and reckless day, years of tumultuous history unspooling like thin fraying strings in the hours after they set a fire. They were best friends until they became more. Their affections grew until the blurry lines became dangerous. Over the course of a single day, the depth of their past, their confusion of their present, and the unpredictability of their future is revealed. And the girls will learn that heart, like flames, aren't so easily tamed. It starts with a fire. How will it end? So it's obviously sapphic, about friendships turning into something more. I think it all takes place over the course of the day. I think it's going to be really intense. So highly looking forward to that one as well. Next we have a YA romance from an author who I read from last year, and I really loved that book. So this one is Heartbreak Symphony by Laken Zia Kemp. And I read Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet last year. Loved it. I talk about it quite a bit because I think it's underrated. But obviously, this author knows my reading taste because that one was set in a restaurant. This one is about music and the power of music, so I just love those kind of tropes. In this story, we are following Aaron and Mia, and they're both auditioning for a music academy, and I think something goes wrong for them there, and they cross paths, and then they kind of grow together. And from what I remember from her first book is that she does a great job of building her characters' backstories, and they always go through a lot, so I think that's going to be the same in here, and they're really going to support each other. I was really impressed with the relationship in her first book, and I hope that happens in Heartbreak Symphony as well. I cannot believe that we are still on April 5th, and I have quite a few more to go on this date, so it's a huge release date. And the next one is one that I know so many of us are excited for, and that is Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. And I think this is in the same world as Station 11 and The Glass Hotel. I think she's trying to build something here, and I've read this synopsis so many times. It's so out there and wild that I can't even remember or explain what's going on here. I know there's a violinist, an author writing a pandemic novel, There's something about the moon. So there's just so much happening in the synopsis, but it is Emily St. John Mandel, so I think we all trust her. I think so many of us are excited about this. So yeah, I will read that no matter what it's about. This next one is one I actually have an ALC for from Libro Femme, so I want to get to it soon. This is Four Treasures of the Sky by Jenny Zhang, and this is one of those books where you're following the same character throughout their life, which is something that I love. And we're following Dayu, who is kidnapped from China and brought to the US, and it's really her story about survival. So I just want to see, it says, over the years that follow, she is forced to keep reinventing herself to survive. From a calligraphy school to a San Francisco brothel to a shop tucked in the Idaho mountains, we follow Dayu on a desperate quest to outrun the tragedy that chases her. So that's going to be a powerful story. I do really like following characters throughout their life. Okay, so that is it for April 5th. We are moving on to April 12th, and the first one I want to talk about is An Arrow to the Moon by Emily X.R. Pan, who wrote The Astonishing Color of After, which I know a lot of people loved and is deeply emotional. I haven't read it yet, but it's still my TBR. But this one also has that magical element that I know the first book has, and I just want to read you the first paragraph because I think it's quick and gives you an idea what it's about. So it says, Hunter Yi has perfect aim with a bow and arrow, but all else in his life veers wrong. He's sick of being haunted by his family's past mistakes. The only thing keeping him from running away are his little brother, a supernatural wind, and the bewitching girl at his new high school. So it's obviously YA magical realism, it sounds like, so I think that is going to be a fun one. And that is actually all I have for April 12th. I don't know why, but we'll move on to April 19th, and the first one is a sequel that I'm really looking forward to, and that is The Genesis Wars by Akemi Don Bowman. The first book was Infinity Course. I used to talk about that book quite a bit because it surprised me so much, and I'm so thrilled that the sequel's almost here because the last one really ended on a cliffhanger. So the first book is following a young character who dies right at the beginning. That is not a spoiler, and she ends up in sort of a purgatory where a character like Siri or Alexa has taken over this world and is treating humans like she has been treated on Earth. So that sounds out there, but it really works, and there's a lot of twists and turns in here. I thought it was a good time. I'm curious to see where this story is going. Next we have a sapphic murder mystery, which is really fun, and this is The Drowning Summer by Kristin Lynn Herman, and this just looks like a good time. This cover is one of my favorites ever. It is stunning, and I know that the synopsis says it's perfect to read under a full moon, so I think we're gonna get some great atmosphere in here, and I think there are witches and ghosts as well, so I like to go into my murder mysteries knowing as little as possible, but this one sounds fun. Next we have The Queen of the Tiles by Hannah Alcath, and this is so unique. This is, again, I think it's a murder mystery where our main character's best friend has passed away and she's trying to figure out what happened. But this is set at a Scrabble tournament. I never knew I needed a book about a Scrabble tournament, but I'm here for it. It's giving me Queen's Gambit vibes. This looks like a good time. I'm so intrigued. I think it'll deal with grief in an interesting way, and I'm looking forward to all the behind the scenes of a Scrabble tournament because Scrabble is not my game. My mom loves Scrabble, but I'm not great at it, so I'm interested to see what goes on there. Next we have probably my most anticipated release of the entire year, and I've already read it. I had an e-arc and I read it in November of last year, but it instantly became my favorite romance. I'm so excited for this to be out in the world, and that is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, who I love. I talk about her constantly. I love Abby Jimenez, and this is loosely based on Little Mermaid, if you get that vibe. It's really just about two people from very different worlds. No actual mermaids or anything like that, but we're following two characters. One is a surgeon in LA and the other owns like an Airbnb in a small town. She ends up losing gas in this small town and he comes to her rescue, and it is so romantic. I absolutely love the chemistry in here. I really love how they navigate each other's worlds, and of course they keep secrets from each other, but it's all beautiful. I love it. The chemistry is amazing. So many fantastic side characters in this small town. I think everybody's gonna love this. I'm so excited to see everybody else read it. Next is a book I feel like a lot of people have read already and have been loving, and this is Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. And this is fantasy horror, which is very new to me. I haven't read a lot of that. And I know that a lot of people love this author, so it'll be interesting to start with this one. And I read the synopsis and there is a possessed chicken in here, which is so different for me. I am so curious about that. And it says, after years of seeing her sister suffer at the hands of an abusive prince, Mara, the shy, convent-raised, third-born daughter, has finally realized that no one is coming to the rescue. No one except for Mara herself. And there's a possessed chicken, so that'll be fun. Next is another one of my most anticipated releases of the entire year. And this is Kayaki by Vaishnavi Patel. And this is a Hindu mythology retelling. And as much as I love Greek myth retellings, I've discovered that I really like exploring different mythology as well, so I'm really looking forward to this one. And it's been compared to Circe because it takes a character who is always seen as a villain in mythology and showing her story. So in this character is, I think, an evil stepmother. I watched a few of the author's interviews, and I'm actually going to link a video down below from Orbit where she talks about the original myth. So I think that gives you a good background into that, but we're getting her story and her side of things. So I think that's going to be amazing. I love stuff like that, but I really do highly recommend watching that video because I think it'll get you hyped for the book. Okay, next is another nonfiction. I have to listen to an audio, and this is Unmasked, My Life Solving America's Cold Cases by Paul Holes. You might recognize the name Paul Holes. He was the detective who caught the Golden State Killer and became kind of a phenomenon after that. Everybody kind of fell in love with Paul Holes after that, but I am curious about his story of his life and his career and talking about cases other than the Golden State Killer. I'm sure he gets into that in here, but it's his entire career, so I'm really looking forward to that. I know he has a podcast. I actually haven't listened to it, but a lot of people have arcs of this. I've seen it all over Instagram, and I've never been so jealous of an arc in my entire life, but I think I'm happy to wait for it on audio because I'm sure Paul Holes himself narrates it, which I am gonna love. Next is actually a horror from an author who I've never read from before, but so many of her books are on my TBR because the premises of her books always sound so good. And this one is The Children on the Hill by Jennifer McMahon. And actually this isn't loosely inspired by Frankenstein, which I kind of love, and I know that it's in two timelines, one in the 70s where we're following, I think, a therapist, and she ends up adopting a child, and then these three children are kind of raised together, and there's something sinister going on there. And then the current timeline, we're actually following a podcaster going back in time to see what happened. You know, that's a typical trope, but I think this is going to be really, really creepy. And again, I like to go into my horrors and mysteries knowing as little as possible, but I really want to try something by Jennifer McMahon, and this might be it. Every once in a while, there's a celebrity memoir that really calls out to me and I want to listen to an audio, and this is definitely the case for Finding Me by Viola Davis. We'll be listening to this on audio 100%. I love Viola Davis, but I don't know much about her story, so I'm really looking forward to that. I do love a good celebrity memoir once in a while if it's somebody that I'm interested in. This next one sounds really unique, and it is The Memory Librarian and Other Stories of Dirty Computer by Janelle Monáe, who is somebody you might recognize. She's a pretty popular, famous singer, and one of her albums, I think her last album, was called Dirty Computer. So I think that this is like an anthology collection, and she works with a lot of collaborators who take the themes that she explored on her album and turn it into these kind of science fiction stories, which is such a unique concept and idea. And it'll be interesting to read this book and then listen to the album. I don't know, I think that could be a really unique experience, and is just kind of creative and brilliant. So I'm really looking forward to that and to see how that all plays out. And then I do have a book coming out on April 30th, and this is a novella, and it's called The Jade Setter of Janloon by Fonda Lee. And this is actually, I think it's a prequel to the Greenbone saga, which Jade City, Jade War, Jade Legacy, actually that is a big book on top there is Jade Legacy. I have to read the last two books in that trilogy. But I know so many people love that series. And I had no idea that she was releasing a novella, and there were only 1,000 hardcover signed editions available, and those sold out. I wish I had known about them, but I just found this out recently. So I think the only way to get it now will be on ebook, but I will still read that. I think this is going to be interesting to set up some of the history of this trilogy. So I think so many people are going to look forward to that. And if you knew that was coming out, let me know. I don't know how I missed that. And then there are just 4 that I want to mention. I don't think I will get to them, but I could be persuaded, and I think I just want to put them on your radar in case you didn't know these were coming out. So there's The No-Show by Beth O'Leary, Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee, Fevered Star by Rebecca Roanhorse, which I might get to one day. I do want to read the first book in that series. And then Insomnia by Sarah Pinborough, who I know a lot of people like, but I haven't tried her stuff. I don't know if I ever will, but this looks creepy. This cover is haunting. So those are all the books that are on my radar. There are some more that I left out. Who knows if I will get to those as well. Like these, all the ones I talked about in this video, I am very, very, very much interested in, and there's a lot of them. So I've got a lot of reading to do. If any of these are on your radar, let me know. If there's some that I missed and you're excited about and that you think I need to know about, let me know about that in the comments. Thank you for watching, subscribing, always supporting me. I appreciate you all so much. Bye for now.